Hey there, it's Tennessee Homestead. How the heck are you today? Having a good weekend? Yeah, I hope so. If you like this video, by the way, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe, because it really helps. A lot of these controversial videos get shadow banned by YouTube here of late, and often not monetized. Some do, some don't. I have been winning some success, and I've had them going back doing manual reviews. Here, a while back, I had just a whole ton of videos demonetized for no good reason. And I've been putting them back up for review, and I've been winning those reviews. There was no violations, which is helping. But please do. It really helps the channel out a lot. Anyway, let's look at some of this stuff going on in the world. I had to laugh, this weekend. It apparently Europe is just about had enough of this trust us coming out of the federal government. Here again, they have pretty much said, okay, you've been telling us all about all these accusations you got going on against Russia, going to attack immediately. Where's your evidence? Show us your evidence. Guess what? So far, we haven't been able to produce it. And then, looking at my notes here, we have now really solved the problem. We've sent Kamala Harris to Europe. Yeah, she's gonna take. She's a problem solver right there. That one is. Yeah, well, at least it'll give Joe somebody to blame if World War III breaks out over there. It's crazy. If the government's got insider information, they need to deal with it. And we really need to talk about some of this top secret stuff that goes on. Our government makes agreements and has documents that they deem top secret to where they've talked to other countries and made agreements, and they leave the stuff classified. We never know what promises our government's making in our name. That shouldn't be allowed, folks. When they tell other countries that they're going to do something for them, we need to know that. We do not need this classified. So far, we're pumping billions into the Ukraine in military aid. Billions. Somebody needs to tell these bozos we're broke. If they want to pump billions into something, which they do not have, which by borrowing more money and printing more money is doing nothing but increasing the inflation that we're all having to pay. And on top of that, our fuel prices are going to be going through the roof courtesy of this administration. I've never seen anything like it. You have to start looking at some of this stuff. And Donald Trump, they talk about we're going to put sanctions on that Nord Stream 2 pipeline. Number one, it's not even up and functioning. Why is that? Well, Donald Trump put the kibosh on the Nord Stream 2 pipeline under his administration because he saw it as a way that Russia was going to get control of Europe just by fuel. Russia already provides, mainly through the Nord Stream pipeline, the Nord Stream 1, which you'll notice they're not talking about sanctions on that. It's up and functioning. And it provides about 40% of the fuel going to natural gas and oil going into Europe. The Nord Stream 2 pipeline would just about take over most of Europe's needs for natural gas and oil. That's the reason he put the kibosh on that. On top of that, it would make the pipeline running through the Ukraine, which is primarily the Ukraine's main source of income, folks. Guess what? They can turn that tap off because they don't need it anymore. So it puts Ukraine in a real bad spot. Thus, you might understand a little further what's going on over there. When Joe Biden came into office, he started undoing every executive order that Donald Trump had ever done in order to show that, he's right and Donald Trump's wrong. Shut down the Keystone Pipeline, putting thousands of American workers out of work. It reopened Nord Stream pipeline sanctions to where Russia went ahead and completed Nord Stream 2 pipeline, Yeah, which now Joe's going to say we're going to punish Russia with. That isn't going to mean a dime out of Russia's pocket. It's not. Okay? It's that simple. And the Europeans aren't going to put up with it. Okay, you can almost bet that it's going to be very limited sanctions on the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. But, you know, it was Joe Biden slinging around executive orders, making it look like he was doing something. He claims he's done more in his first year. Yeah, he really has. And all of it bad. None of it's good. Okay, he has undone a lot of work that the Trump administration had put through that definitely improved things. And now he's even taking credit for, oh, look, the jobs are coming back. Well, yeah, you cut off the unemployment to people where they had to go back to these jobs. And let's face facts. We aren't back to the levels of employment that we had under Trump before the COVID. So no pat on the back, Joe. It's just things getting more back to normal. Okay, relax, son. Don't take a victory lap for it. So let's get on with this. I want to talk to you today about a report, and I'll provide a link to this where you can read it all in detail because I'm going to give you the abridged version of a report from the Euro Weekly this month. And the headline really caught my eye because you've had NATO saying we had no agreement with the Russians whatsoever not to expand NATO. But the headline was NATO reneged on a 1991 agreement with Russia. I started reading this thing, and this is according to newly discovered documents dated from March of 1991, shows that discussions between the West and Russia made it clear that NATO would not expand past East Germany. More or less, Germany would be unified. They would accept East Germany into NATO, but no other countries. And it appears that we have reneged on that, quite obviously. The key text to the minutes of the meeting quotes from U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for Europe and Canada, Raymond Seitz, I remember that old boy, saying, we made it clear to the Soviet Union in the 2+4 talks, as well as other negotiations, that we do not intend to benefit from the withdrawal of Soviet troops from Eastern Europe. NATO should not expand to the east, either officially or unofficially. A British representative also mentioned the existence of a general agreement that membership in NATO for Eastern European countries is unacceptable. West German diplomat, and I'm going to really butcher this guy's name, it's like Jurgen Horbag, said of the 1991 agreement that we made it clear during the 2+4 negotiations that we would not extend NATO beyond the Elbe River, but they changed that. He made a mistake to the Oder River, which would basically mean East Germany, that we would not extend NATO beyond the Elbe and could not, therefore, offer Poland or others memberships in NATO. Now, the Germans understood that as an agreement. The minutes later clarified that he was referring to the Oder River, the boundary between East Germany and Poland. Further noted that the West German Chancellor Helmut Kohl and Foreign Minister Hans-Dietrich Gerstner had agreed on this position as well. The document was found in the U.S. archive? No, sorry. It was found in the UK National Archives by a Joseph Stephenson, a political science professor out of Boston University in the U.S. It had been marked secret, but had been declassified at some point. This gentleman tweeted on Friday that he was honored to work with Der Spiegel, and I'll provide a link to that. It's a German newspaper, if you can read German, but they do have an English translation. I didn't search through their paperwork to find the article. I took this one from another paper that had publicized it. Piece of advice, folks, if you want to find out what's going on in America, look to Europe. Their media seems to want to cover things that our media refuses to cover. But anyway, showed that Western diplomats did believe that they had made an agreement made a NATO non-enlargement pledge to the Soviet Union. Problem with the Soviet Union, I guess, is they took us at our word. They should have known better. Senior policymakers deny a non-expansion pledge was offered. This new document shows otherwise. In a follow-up tweet, he said, noting that beyond the Elbe River or the river by any standards includes Eastern Europe countries, which NATO started expanding into just 8 years later. On December, Vladimir Putin, once this document came out, was going, we always said you guys made a promise to us and you reneged on it, and here it comes again. But in a major conference that the West had promised the Soviet Union NATO would not expand a single inch to the east, but brazenly deceived and cheated Moscow to do just that. NATO Secretary General Stoltenberg said the alliance had never made a promise not to expand. In an interview with Der Spiegel later, Stoltenberg repeated that there's never been such a promise. There has never been such a behind-the-scenes deal. It is simply not true. Clearly, the world moves on and the situations change. However, if a 1991 agreement does exist, then it is incumbent on those involved to renegotiate it and to not renege on the commitments made. The document did exist. It existed back in 1991. The West just chose to ignore it. Made it secret, hid it, and 8 years later went in and did exactly what they said they would not do. That simple, folks. The West lied. Probably because we pushed it. Okay? So basically, Putin was right. NATO and the US was wrong. That simple. Putin isn't lying. We made an agreement. And let me tell you something. We have troops. We have missiles. We have all this stuff lined up on the Russian border. We are within 80 miles of major Russian cities with tactical weapons. Do you think the U.S. would tolerate that? Do you think any country would tolerate that? Now, some of the latest things is it looks like in these European talks, the Red Chinese have joined in. Don't be surprised at all if the Ukraine gets the crap knocked out of it. Wouldn't surprise me if Russia takes total control of the Ukraine, because they've about had it. And we would be the same, folks. We would be standing there going, you get that stuff off our borders. And we'd be behind that if our country said, hey, you get that stuff off, get that crap off our border. We're not going to tolerate that. Especially if we had an agreement that you don't do something like that. Apparently the agreement existed. We're in the wrong here, folks. The West is in the wrong. And it's time that we started making our government accountable. If they enter into any kind of agreement, that agreement should not be top secret. It should be public information. They are doing this as our representatives, but yet they're hiding it from us. Think about that for a minute. America knew what it agreed to. So did England. So did the rest of Europe. And now we're risking a possible world war because we like to lie. Okay, so it'd be tough for NATO to go, yep, we screwed up, and walk away. But that is exactly what NATO needs to do. Or they should accept Russia to put tactical nuclear warheads within 80 miles of their major cities and troops along their borders, and should not say a word about it. We shouldn't be complaining about troops in Ukraine because guess what? They're not even NATO countries. So we should have no say-so in that. Tell you right now, America's wrong. It's the facts are out there. Putin is right in this. And what it's doing is, back under the Clinton administration, the reason we worked so hard to get the Chinese on our side, because Russia was talking with China. And the last thing we wanted was the Red Chinese and the Russians to start entering into pacts together. our lies, our bullying, our warmongering has now created pacts. And I'm sure there'll be future pacts in our future between those two nations. Because that's how both of them view us. We're not a nation of truth anymore. We are a bunch of liars that can't be trusted. We start wars all over the place. We kill a lot of people. Weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. How many civilians, men, women, and children died because we lied? The UK lied. They had the same kind of information we had. Ooh. And we butchered people over there. And we spent trillions of dollars over there. And for what? We walked away, place folded up like a house of cards. All the leadership grabbed up all the money they could find and ran for the borders. Same thing in Afghanistan. We need to take this kind of authority and power away from our government, and the first way to do it is to say, unless we have a declared war and we have troops in danger, this top secret nonsense needs to end. Just because you're spying on the American people does not give you the right to take and make that top secret. We need to know them things if we're being spied on by our government. If our government makes agreements, we expect to know what those agreements are. The public opinion in America should look at this document and really, it should sway them. But a lot of this stuff from those negotiations is still top secret by all the Western countries. Russians know what we promised. We need to live up to our agreements. We need to start being a nation that our founding fathers created. And that's an honest nation of decent people who are not warmongers. Hate to say it, but yeah, NATO needs to withdraw from those eastern countries. Get those troops out of there. We're sending more troops over there. Why are we sending more troops? If we have no intention of fighting for the Ukraine, why all this buildup of troops that we're doing in Europe right now, in Eastern Europe? To make our NATO allies feel more comfortable? No, Russia's not lined up on Poland's borders. They're not looking to attack Poland or Hungary or any other country over there. They want those missiles out of there, and they want NATO troops out of there. They're not saying, totally withdraw them as part of the NATO pact. Russia don't care. Ukraine, they've got a lot of unresolved issues. Why? We started a coup over there in 2013, something like that. And we took a country that was friendly to the U.S. and put a coup in place and made it unfriendly to the Russians. They started grabbing up nuclear weapons and all sorts of stuff from the Russians. Big military installations down in Crimea. Now all of a sudden they were claiming the Russians can't have access to. Well, the Russians showed them in short order, you're not going to do that to us. And they took those bases back in Crimea. You can't blame them. We would do the exact same thing. I mean, believe me, the Cubans don't want us down in Gitmo, okay? But we're there because we basically told them, we're not moving. Need to wake up, America. You need to start telling the government. This top secret nonsense needs to disappear. They have so much stuff that's top secret that even our congressmen and our representatives can't get information on. That's wrong. If it doesn't have to do with a war, a declared war, or national security, i.e. missiles that we're developing, or weapons that we're developing, or placement of troops, things of this nature, we need to do away with this top secret stuff. They got it to where now their lunch menus are top secret. No more secrets. It's time the American people get to know, and especially if you've made some sort of an agreement with any country, should not be classified. That should be public documentation that every American go take a look at. That's my 2 cents on it. It appears Putin is right. We did have an agreement. I went through that back then, and I was under the understanding from listening to the comments that were being made back in the early 90s that indeed we had an agreement with Russia. I was surprised when I heard NATO and the U.S. claiming, no, we didn't. Yeah, well, it turns out, yeah, we did. I'm ashamed of this country, not of the people of this nation. I think the people of this nation are very good. I'm disgusted with our government. We are nothing more than half a breath away from a authoritarian regime. Seriously, we're no different than Russia. We're no different than Red China. See, everybody way back when, you heard a lot of our officials saying, Red Chinese really have a good system going. It's Rick, Tennessee Homestead. Love you guys and appreciate you. And I hope you pay attention, because we're lying again. But even the Europeans are going, quit telling us your stories, Joe. Show us your evidence. And I bet he doesn't have any. Because this date of attack from the Russians has sure been floating around a lot. They've been claiming that since first of the year. We're darn near into March, kids. Think about it. Trust us. We're going to lie to you. Y'all have a great day, great week. We'll talk to you real soon.